Right next today, 20 years ago, a father and son team, Gordon and Craig Ranson, began restoring classic cars. And they just did this for fun initially. And it went on to have huge success. Bridge Classic Cars now restores and maintains some of the UK's most unique and vintage classic vehicles. And it was just a passion that turned into something a lot more. Let's chat to Craig, one half of the duo. Hi, Craig.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks. What an exciting story. So you just love tinkering around with old cars to begin with?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I grew up with it. It's quite scary when you say 20 years. It's like I don't feel that old. But yeah, it's scary, isn't it? So.
Can you remember the first car that you restored?
We worked on cars before we restored cars, but I think the first memorable one was a Jensen, which, if you're in the classic car world, you kind of know us now for the Jensens, and it came completely unintentionally. It's the old story, we found a Jensen in a barn, and we dragged it out, and it was one of 120 that were ever made. So we started doing it, and we called upon assistance from what we thought were other people who were Jensen people, and pretty much everybody at the time said, can't work on those cars, they're too complicated. So we learnt as we went along. We were lucky that our online presence is pretty good. A very high profile gentleman saw that we had this Jensen and decided to buy it midway through the restoration. So we kind of learnt, and in a way money was no object, kind of. So we learnt it and we built it, and because we built probably better than the day it came out of the factory, we then got a name for being the people to go to for these particular Jensens. So yeah, that was probably the most memorable starting restoration we did.
It must be a wonderful feeling to, as you mentioned there, find a car in an old barn that looks like it's ready for the scrap heap, ready for the scrap yard, and to restore it to its former glory, to how it used to look. What does that feel like?
That's the story of our life. So pretty much every car that comes in within reason is a barn, what we would call a barn find. And that is people that have, driven it into a barn 20, 30, 40 years ago and then decided to bring it out now. It feels amazing. It takes a long time. That's the thing. When you're here every day, you look at the same things. You feel like you're not progressing, but it's when other people come into the building and they sort of go, oh, that's an E-Type we saw 6 months ago and it was an absolute wreck, and now it's painted and it's nicely shaped and it looks like a proper car again. And you do get that feeling, and that's what people like to come here and see these things.
How did you end up getting involved with film and TV companies then, Craig?
Well, we didn't mean to. So basically what happened is we had a BMW 5 Series that we put up for sale. This was a long time ago. We're probably talking 10, 15 years ago. And this lady came in and said, yeah, I'll have that car. And then we started talking to her about what she was going to do with it. And she was taking it straight to London. It was going to be wrapped and it was going to appear in Fast and the Furious 6. But the sad thing was it was actually going to be smashed up. It was going to be one of 6 that they flipped and chucked off the London Bridge and everything like that. And then that was the first. And then we had the Crown. They bought a car off us again to go. I mean, it was a funny story. He came in, he said, it was a beautiful car. It was a show-winning car that he came to see. It was a Vauxhall. And he came in, he went, yeah, I'll have that. I need to take it now because it needs to be painted black. Bear in mind, it was blue. It needs to be painted black, and it needs to be in Scotland by tomorrow. And we thought it was a joke. And then when you look at the Crown, you see it in the background. It's not even one of the main cars. It was in the background, painted black, in Series 6, I think it was. So yeah, we've done quite a lot. We did something with Kylie the other month for This Morning. She needed a car for something. So yeah, we never really set out to do it. It kind of just happens, really.
But it's very much part of your business now, I would imagine.
Well, sort of, yeah. I mean, we don't really sort of go big on that fact, but I think because of our online presence is quite big, we're the first port of call for a lot of these people to come to, and we kind of try and make it easy. When production teams come in, they don't want all of the hassle and the faff of trying to find a car, and they just come to us. This is what we want. We deliver it to them on the day, and hopefully it makes it pain-free for them.
Where do the cars come from? Do you have a stock of classic vintage cars then?
Yeah, but we don't rent the cars out. We get a lot of production people that will say, can you find us this to rent out for 50 quid, 100 quid a day? We don't do that because you just don't know what's going to happen to the car, so we only sell them. But Yeah, we have a big collection ourselves. It's never what they want. You have to go out and find them. But we've got contacts kind of all over the world now. I mean, we get a lot of cars over from Beverly Hills, either to be restored or whatever. So we've got decent contacts in this industry now. So it's just a case of looking around and seeing what you can find when you need it.
Craig, what car excites you? You must have a favourite.
I would probably say the 50s Mercedes SL. So sort of it sort of as the Gullwing. That's the one that's probably unachievable for me to ever buy, but that's the one that, hopefully one day I might be able to. That's my dream car.
And you must have an incredible relationship with your dad as well. It's lovely for a father and son to have a similar passion, for a father to almost pass down the skills and passion to their son.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we've been close forever and a day. I mean, I grew up around classic cars. He always had award-winning cars. He never did the cars himself. He always gave them to other people. Why Bridge is where it is now is because he used to give a car to someone and they would take a nut and bolt off it and you'd see it 10 years later. Whereas when we set up Bridge, we were like, we might not be able to get your car in for the next 2 years, but when it comes in here, we start on it, so if people phone us now, we're saying we can't see you until 2025, but when it comes in, it'll be worked on and it will be gone out the door straight away. So yeah, it's brilliant. It's fantastic having that relationship with him. We've always been really close.
It must be a real lucrative career as well, Craig. A lot of people will have an old car and they'll do it up as a hobby, and it might take them years and years and years and years and years. You must have a particular type of client, do you?
Yeah, we tend to, because you find a lot of people come to you. It's a little bit like, when you watch the telly and they can do up a house in 60 minutes, and then you talk to a painter and decorator and they say that's not possible. It's a similar sort of thing for us. Your customers will come in and they think they can have a car done for $4,000, and when you sort of say, no, that's not the case, it takes a year, and it's very methodical what you have to do. So yeah, I suppose the people that understand what goes into it tend to have a little bit more money to spend. They tend not to be in as much of a rush. But that's not to say that if you had an MG or what I would consider an everyday car and you want to do it yourself, you can totally do that. You can turn a car around in a matter of months and it be nice. It may not last as long as cutting the metal out and replacing it with metal, but there's a place for every single classic car. I think the important thing from our point of view is to keep them all on the road and to get people into this building that like cars. It's not about having the most expensive or the high-end stuff. It's if you've got a car, whether it's rusty and you enjoy driving it rusty, that's fine. Everyone's welcome.
Restoration is a big thing at the moment across the board. You're a bit like a fancy repair shop, aren't you, Craig?
Yeah, pretty much. We try and keep everything clean and tidy and shiny, but yeah, essentially, yeah.
Do you like to show your cars off as well? Do you tend to go to rallies and car shows?
As much as we can. And we have rallies and car shows here. We have a big one in July that takes place between one of my buildings, which is over at Bentwaters, which everybody loves because it's obviously the old RAF base. And then everybody comes over to our main workshops for food and drinks. But yeah, I mean, we go to all of the local shows. We go to Goodwood. We do the weekly draws where we give away cars, because that's sort of a new venture that we went into a couple of years ago. And people can come here. So every Thursday night we have food and drink and people come here and watch cars essentially being given away. So that's quite cool.
Sounds it. Listen, you're in a lucky position to be able to work every day doing a passion as your career. A bit like me with radio. It was always a passion of mine. I'm doing something I love. We're incredibly lucky. Listen, you've got a website, bridgeclassiccars.co.uk. More information about the business and what you do on there. Craig, it's been a pleasure.
And to you, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Take care. Craig Ranson from Bridge Classic Cars. As I said, find them online, bridgeclassiccars.co.uk. Supplied cars to Hollywood movies, Netflix series, and they're right here in Suffolk.